achieve that goal, but it was just achieved in September of last year under the Bush administration, I'm sorry, under the Obama administration. After the August military intervention, Obama administration led military intervention in Iraq, a new Iraq government was put into place, and that government has many of the people who the Bush administration had initially tried to get into higher positions in office who didn't stay put, are now in leadership positions, and one of those is Abdel Mahdi, who is now the head of the oil ministry, who has now successfully put forward this long-sought agenda of the Bush administration, which is production sharing agreements in Iraq, which is basically what was the biggest wish list of the oil industry in Iraq, and that's now been achieved. The importance of linking not just the peace movement, but also the climate movement, I think is highlighted in the way the messaging of the peace movement has been manipulated to say, okay, right, you don't want these things that are happening through wars to happen. If you want to recruit and eliminate our dependence on foreign oil, then let us produce here. And at the same time as they're producing more here, they're succeeding in producing more there. And one of the key objectives that can be achieved by linking the climate movement, environmental justice movement at home and abroad with the peace movement at home and abroad is making it so that they can't use our messages against us in different silos to achieve their ultimate objectives, which is what they're actually doing quite successfully. The decline in the price of oil has obviously been a short-term hindrance for the industry, but it's got some very serious long-term benefits for them. One of the most important being it looks like they're going to consolidate even further. So one of the largest mergers in history is about to happen. Shell Oil is buying BG Group, which is going to be the largest European oil merger. It's the largest oil merger since Exxon bought Mobil. There's rumors now that Exxon is looking to buy BP, which is quite possible. That would be just a behemoth. It's a fairly unimaginable behemoth. And what that means is increased consolidation, increased power, increased political influence. And one of the primary things that we can do, if one thing would be to try and stop those mergers from taking place, but the other would be to watch what's happening with the industry as much as we watch every other piece of information that we're watching. And to look at how they're manipulating our own messaging to achieve their own ends and to grow our movement stronger, to grow our movements stronger and more united by seeing the way these pieces fit together. We have to stop this extreme exploitation, whether it's being achieved through military means, offshore means, fracking means, bomb trains moving, exposing their drive to expand their growth by merging and their power. And I guess just to say in the last few seconds that I have, another sort of new iteration of the new war for oil in Iraq is Islamic State using its power to take over oil fields as well, and using the excuse to stop Islamic State from getting oil to create enormous environmental havoc in Iraq and Syria by targeting the oil infrastructure that Islamic State is going after. And I just want to flag that because it's another environmental justice terror to keep our eyes on and linking these movements. That time went really quickly, so thank you very much and appreciate your time.
We made a quick adjustment. Our next speaker is Lawrence Ham. He's been a relentless advocate for African American people and the cause of of human rights for more than 30 years, raised in, right up the road, Newark, New Jersey. He is a founder and current chairman of the People's Organization for Progress, which struggles for quality education, employment opportunities, access to healthcare, and against racial profiling and police brutality. And it epitomizes, along with the rest of POP, what it means to stay in the fight every day, all day, year after year, until victory.
Power to the people. Brothers and sisters, even though I would sacrifice some of my time, my conscience would not let me begin my remarks without observing that today is the birthday of one of the greatest fighters against racism and slavery, John Brown. And I think we should remember this great abolitionist, John Brown, who was born May 9th, 1800, who led an armed struggle against the enslavement of Africans here in the United States. And for that, he was hung on December 2nd, 1859, but John Brown was vindicated because ultimately it did take an armed struggle to end the enslavement. That was the Civil War, the most catastrophic war this country ever engaged in. Over 1 million Americans died in that war, but that's what it took to put slavery in the grave. And I thank John Brown for starting that great struggle against the enslavement of our people. And if John Brown were alive today, what would he say, brothers and sisters? I think he would say that slavery did not end, that it is in fact manifests itself in even more pernicious forms here in this country. And we see that today's topic is the costs of endless war and our austerity at home. And perhaps one of the greatest ways in which this was symbolized, Brother Clarence, was when I picked up that edition of the New York Times one day last year, and I thought I was looking at a situation in Palestine where young people were standing in front of military vehicles and men with uniforms on and automatic rifles. And in fact, it wasn't Palestine, it was Ferguson, St. Louis, it was Ferguson, Missouri, and that symbolizes the war abroad and the war that is being made on our people right here at home. And it's even more facile than this, brothers and sisters. The set through a program called the 1033 program and other programs, the same military vehicles and the same equipment that has been used in Iraq and Afghanistan has been brought home and is being used by police forces, which are nothing more than military occupation forces of black communities here in the United States. The same equipment and the same armaments being used abroad is being used at home, and the same torture techniques that have been used in Iraq and Afghanistan are used on black men in prisons and jails across the United States of America. So the question we ask is, what is the root of all of this? And we see as we multiply our wars abroad and intensification of war at home, and this is not merely metaphor, brothers and sisters. We see an increase in police brutality. In fact, FBI figures revealed in the first 4 months of 2015 alone, over 400 people have been killed by the police here in the United States. And we have a liberation struggle going on, my friends who are here today. And that liberation struggle is not in Asia and in Africa and in Latin America. we got a liberation struggle going on right here in New Jersey, and we need your help. Right in the audience right now is the mother of Abdul Kamal. Michelle, stand up. This is the mother of Abdul Kamal, who was fired upon 15 times by Irvington police, hit 10 times. What did he have in his hand? Did he have a weapon in his hand? Did he have a gun in his hand? No, he had a cell phone in his hand. And we also have the case of Kashad Ashford, who was shot 9 times in the head. And we need you, brothers and sisters, to write and to call the U.S. Attorney to investigate, to demand a civil rights investigation into the death of Abdul Kamal. And in the case of Kashad Ashford, who was shot 9 times in the head by state troopers, we need and we want you to write and call the State Attorney General for New Jersey and demand that all documents and reports on this case be made public. And some of you have probably seen the video of Jerome Reed getting out of the police vehicle in Bridgeton, New Jersey, with his hands up, his hands empty, and he was shot down dead at point-blank range, not by a white police officer, but by a black police officer. Because it's really not about white and black, it's about blue and the police being an instrument of repression, not only against black people, but against working and poor people in this country. Brothers and sisters, we are having a major march, and I hope that one of the resolutions that will come out of this conference will be an endorsement of the event that we're having in Newark, New Jersey on the 25th of July. We are calling for a 1 million people's march against police brutality, racial injustice, and economic inequality. And we need as many people as possible to gather in Newark, New Jersey, to say that black life not only matters to black people, black life should matter to all people in this country. We need you. We need you. So the question is asked. The question is asked, what is the cost of endless war? What is the cost of austerity? The cost of endless war and the cost of austerity is the abrogation and the violation of our civil liberties, our constitutional rights, our civil rights, our workers' rights, our women's rights, our democratic rights. This is the cost of endless war and austerity. The cost of austerity, the closure of our factories and the export of jobs, the closure of schools, not 1 or 2, but dozens of schools at a time, the closure of hospitals, the foreclosure on homes. More people have had their homes foreclosed on in the last 5 years than in the last 50 years combined. This is the cost of endless war and austerity. And I say to you today, what is the greatest antidote to this endless war and austerity? The greatest antidote, the best medicine is to build a people's movement in this country for the fundamental transformation of our socio-economic system and the redistribution of power and wealth, as Dr. Martin Luther King called for. The greatest antidote to this endless war and austerity is to take all of our movements, our movement against war, our movement for a clean environment, our movement against racism, our movement against police brutality, our movement for workers' rights, and to bring these movements together into one great movement that can in fact transform this system. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Power to the